Hello and greetings from your state capital. Once again, I am Representative Tim Jones, and I bring you welcome from Jefferson City. As you can see, springtime has come to mid-Missouri, as well as most of the other parts of the state, if not all by now. And we are entering into the final 4 weeks of the second regular session. And two big items that occurred this week that we saw were the Senate working very diligently and hard on our state's budget. And I'm very happy to report that as of late last night, the Senate did complete their work on all of the budget bills that the House, that we had sent them several weeks ago, and the Senate actually came up with additional cuts. And they believe they have now provided a template for a balanced budget. They have made they have made $500 million in cuts of their own. The House had made $250 million in cuts. So now we can successfully take the House bills of the budget, the version, and the Senate bills to conference, and we can definitely work towards a very reasonable budget. We are constitutionally mandated to pass a balanced budget here in the state of Missouri and protect your tax dollars, and I believe we are firmly headed in that direction. I'm happy to report we are actually going to reduce the scope and size of government this year, limit our spending, and keep more of your hard-earned tax dollars in your pockets instead of in government's. Secondly, the House worked through a lot of different legislation this week on a number of different topics, but one of the most important ones we did was to protect one of our most fundamental freedoms and rights on which this country was founded, and that is the belief in one person, one vote. And what we did this week was pass the Voter Protection Act to safeguard your right to vote and to make sure that we continue to push back against those who would fraudulently misrepresent themselves and try and circumvent that right and freedom that we have. And we did it in the proposal of the Photo ID Act, saying that if you're going to go to the polls and vote, we want to make sure that you are who you say you are. Now, for the vast majority of Missourians, I know this seems like a very, very common sense approach. Unfortunately, common sense approaches sometimes are attacked here in Jefferson City by those who want to continue to be apologists for ACORN and groups like that who want to dilute your vote, who want to attack that most sacred right you have. So we said that in the House bill that you simply have to have a photo ID, and that can be any number of different identification cards, whether it's a military ID or some other state-provided ID you have. If you happen to be elderly or someone without an ID, there are provisions in the bill to protect your right to vote as well. We want to make it easy for people to exercise their right because it is a right, but we also want to make sure that the right is not being diluted in any way and is being fully protected. So those are two of the biggest items that we saw this week in Jefferson City, and as I mentioned, with 4 weeks left of session, we're going to be extremely busy as hundreds of pieces of legislation will be flying back and forth between the chambers, and as we work towards our final budget deadline of May 7th, when the House and the Senate have to come together with a constitutionally mandated balanced budget. So I look forward to speaking to you again next week from your state capital. Again, I'm State Representative Tim Jones.